The next speaker that I will be announcing, we're really honoured that he has taken out time and is with us today. Dr. Hussein Muhyiddin Qadri is currently the president of Minhajul Quran International, which is spread across 100 countries, and its strategic vision is to promote religious moderation, effective and sound education, and interfaith harmony. Dr. Hussein Qadri is a young scholar, researcher, orator, international peace promoter, an energetic human rights campaigner, and an author of numerous books. He has recently been awarded with the Best Paper Award at the KLIC ELS conference in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. He holds graduate in economics and political science from York University, Canada, MBA in international business from France, PhD from Victoria University, Melbourne. We are very pleased that he has come all the way from Canada to join us today. I would like to warmly welcome Dr. Hussein Muhyiddin Qadri to deliver a talk on Islam and corporate social responsibility.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the beginning, I would like to congratulate Mr. Sayyid Atiqul Hassan and his family, who is the founder of Halal Expo Australia, for organizing such a beautiful event and conference to spread and create awareness about halal industry here in Australia. Dear audience, it's an important topic which I have chosen today to speak on. It is Islam on corporate social responsibility. Before I get to describe this topic further, I would like to give a little introduction about the major ethical systems which exist and prevail in the world today. And on those ethical systems, later on the values, policies and principles are driven to be added and inculcated in different systems which are existing and working today around the world. There are basically 6 major ethical systems which provide the basis for the policy and principles to any system which works today. For example, the first system which exists, the ethical system, is relativism, which is self-interest. Ethical decisions are made on the basis of self-interest and need under that system. Either the community or culture, they follow this system, or the second one is utilitarianism, the calculation of costs and benefits. Any industry, organization or business, they would be taking decisions, and their decisions are made on the basis of outcome resulting from these decisions. An action is essential if it results in the greatest benefit, so they would be taking that decision. So basically, all decisions are based on costs and benefits. So that's the whole and sole purpose of their business. So the third system which exists and which helps industries and businesses to take decisions is universalism. Another word used for this one is duty. The ethical decisions stress the intention of the decision or action. Similar decisions should be reached by everyone under similar circumstances. What does that mean? That means that the majority, whosoever is taking decision in different cultures, so to them, the right decision would be the decision which is which has been taken by many people around the world in different cultures. So they would consider that system the right policy and right system for them. And then the fourth system, which exists in the world, in different industries and businesses, they call it rights, the individual entitlement. Ethical decisions stress a single value, which is liberty, and are based on individual rights, ensuring freedom of choice. So followers of this system, they don't have any other ethical policy, mode, rule, or regulation. The only principle they follow is freedom of choice or right of individual. So whatever comes in its way, they will be rejecting that, and whatever comes in line to it, they will be accepting and taking decisions accordingly. So the fifth existing system, they call it distributive justice, the fairness and equity. Ethical decisions stresses on a single value, which is justice, and ensure an equitable distribution of wealth and benefits. So that's another system some businesses they follow to take decision, and the basis for the taking of that decision is mainly the justice. Whatever they consider just, whatever they consider equal among different parties and communities, they consider it ethical and right decision. And last but not least, the sixth model, which exists around the world, they call it eternal law, which comes from holy scriptures, the religious scriptures, which is the ethical decisions are made on the basis of eternal law, which is revealed in holy scriptures of the different religions of the world. So mainly these 6 models exist, and whatever the organization, culture, country who are taking decisions and making rules and regulations, they fall under any one of these systems and models. So that's, and even the countries and governments, when they take decisions, so they fall under any one model out of these 6. So now, coming to the second point, towards the topic, today's topic, which is Islam on corporate social responsibility. That's another system which requires different ethical values and principles, as many other systems they do. For example, the political system of the world, economic system of the world. So there has always been 2 different systems. Then there is a conventional political system, and then when we say Islamic political system, there is an economic system. Then when we say Islamic economic system, and many more, the judicial system, then Islamic judicial system, education system, and then there is Islamic education system. So there are different values, and these systems, they fall under these 6 systems, or they are following any one system out of these 6. So now coming to the topic, I will like to give an example of economics to make us understand this whole phenomena in a better manner. What exactly economics is? Economics is basically a study to analyze the relationship between unlimited desires and limited resources. That's the definition given by Robbins for economics. On the other hand, when we say Islamic economics, so what exactly the word Islam create difference in the model and system of economics? Islam itself, it's a complete system in itself. It's a complete code of conduct. It's a complete set of principles which has been given by the religion, by Islam to us. So whenever we add the word Islam behind any system, so it is necessary that the word Islam has relevant influence on that system. So there is an economics. Everyone knows what is economics. But then when we will add word Islam behind economics and we will call it Islamic economics, so there has to be a special kind of influence on economics. And that influence comes from Islam. Before the word Islam was added behind economics, so the definition was unlimited desires and limited resources. But when we add the word Islam behind the word economics, then I define it in a different manner. Then I defined Islamic economics is that it is a study which analyzes the relationship between limited desires and unlimited resources. I make it other way around, because the word Islam has been added behind the word economics. And why the definition has changed after adding the word Islam? because we have to see what Islam actually teaches us. Throughout the religion, one specific and most important thing you learn everywhere in the religion, and that is to cut down your desires, to control your desires, to limit your desires. So when you limit such desires, so this is which has been taught by Islam. So when economics itself increases your desires, economic itself increase your greed in the society. Economics itself make you learn how to make more money, how to make and how to gain more share of the market. This is the science of economics. But when you add the word Islam behind it, it makes balance. It makes a beautiful balance. It creates a beautiful balance. Because Islam teaches you to cut down your desires, to limit your desires. And if you have anything extra, distribute it among the people who are have-nots in the society. So that a beauty comes from Islam. And then there is economics, a science of making money. And then there is Islam, and next a word to the economics, which is teaching you to cut down your desires. So when these two elements and points come together, that create a beautiful science of economics, which is called Islamic economics. Similarly, now coming to what exactly the CSR, corporate social responsibility, is. Then again there are two: a general phenomena of corporate social responsibility, and then Islamic corporate social responsibility. What exactly the general phenomena of corporate social responsibility? This field of CSR has grown very fastly in the last 2 decades. More companies than ever before are engaged in serious efforts of integrating their businesses into corporate social responsibility phenomena and system today. But there is no single formula or a template for CSR worldwide. Policies can differ considerably for companies, for different cultures, for different countries and policies. One thing they all recognize, this is important, one thing they all recognize is that any action of any corporate sector, any industry, any business has a great influence on the third party, which is the society. So this is one thing which is common among every industry, whosoever is interested in following the concept of corporate social responsibility. So the only one factor is common. Rest, culture to culture, country to country, nation to nation, the formulas, the policies, the definition of corporate social responsibility changes. And if we go back in the history, earlier, the concept wasn't there 2 decades ago. What was there? Initially, when the entrepreneurs, the small businesses, they started becoming a big multinationals, but big industries, big corporate sector. That was the time when the labor wasn't considered a part of organization, industry or factory or a big business or a corporate at that time. They were considered third party at that time. That's why the labor unions came into being, and they started fighting with the stakeholders, with the shareholders of the companies, with the owners of the companies to gain more rights, to gain labor safety rights, to gain their own rights for their vacations, holiday, wages, whatever. So they started fighting them. So initially these organizations, according to the regulations of the government, and when the governments, they regulated different systems, so they started giving the rules and the rights to the labor. So initially, corporate social responsibility was considered to give rights to the labor. Once the labor unions and labor became an initial part and parcel of the corporate sector and industries, and it was no more a third party to any organization. So then later on, the companies, they came up with an idea that because our organization, they have an important impact on the society, on the behavior of the society. So it is necessary that when we make money from the society, we spend money back on the society. So that was the whole phenomena which made them come up with the whole science of corporate social responsibility in the history. And then the discussion started that what comes under their jurisdiction and what not. What is corporate social responsibility and what is not. So, but one thing is common, whatever the general phenomena of corporate social responsibility exists and prevails in the world, in the Western world, in United States, in Europe, in Australia, one thing is common. They say the stakeholders, the shareholders of the organization, they come first. They are there. They have to protect their right, the right of making profit, the right of making more money from the business, and right of making profits out of their shares. So that was the basic phenomena, and then whatever is left, they will be paying back to the society. So this was basic whole concept of general phenomena of CSR which we see today. But then again, coming to the Islamic CSR, the way we said Islamic economics, the Islamic corporate social responsibility. Now we go back to those 6 models which I discussed and described initially, that there are 6 different models. Under any one of that model, different systems they fall. So whatever the models which have been made and given by Islam, they fall under the 6th model, which is eternal law. So every single model in Islam draw the policies and principles from eternal law, the scriptures of holy book, the holy scriptures of the religion, the holy scriptures of Islam. If it is Islamic economic, if it is a political system, if it is a judicial system, if it is an economic system, whatever the system is, in Islam, all these systems, they draw initial principles from the holy scriptures. Holy scriptures does not provide a complete models to the society. Mind that. Holy scriptures does not provide a complete model. If holy scriptures are there to provide a complete model, then they would be going out of date very soon. Because in centuries and centuries, people change, policies change, cultures change, requirements change. So the models, if some religion is giving models, so they will go out of date very quickly. That's why we believe that Islam is forever. Islam, whatever the Islamic principles are, they are accommodatable, they are adoptable for every single time and moment of this era and every era to come. Why? Islam does not provide models, Islam only provides principles. So same thing, when we say corporate social responsibility and we add a word Islam behind CSR, so that has to do something with Islam for sure. So what Islamic CSR is? Dear audience, in Islamic CSR, the focus is on 2 main elements. It doesn't only start from the profit making of the shareholders of a corporate sector or any industry. Islam basic focuses on 2 areas. First is of course financial benefit from their organization or business, and second most important thing is social responsibility. That organization, what kind of social responsibility and what kind of social benefit that organization or industry is giving back to the society. So to Islam it is really necessary, and it is not just necessary or optional for any Muslim businessman to give benefit to the society or not. No, it is mandatory for any Muslim businessman or industrialist to give a specific amount and specific quantity of benefit, social benefit to the society, whatever they do. In that ways, that concept, that industry, that business would be considered halal and Islamic. This is the basic phenomena. For example, now coming to Quranic references and hadith. For example, it is stated in Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah Almighty says, they ask you about alcohol, the intoxicants, and gambling. Say, major sin lies in both of them, and also come worldly profits for the people, but their sin is greater than their profit. So it's very clearly mentioned that there can be a beneficial things in it, which you see in worldly terms. But whatever the sin and disadvantage lies into it, that is much greater than that immediate profit which we see in gambling, or maybe the intoxicants you feel, whatever the thing you feel after those having those intoxicants. So the sin and disadvantages are much bigger. At another place then it states, truly Allah has cursed khamr and has cursed the one who produce it and the one for whom it is produced. the one who drink it, and the one who serve it, and the one who carries it, and for one whom it is carried, and the one who sell it, and the one who earn from the sale of it, and the one who buy it, and the one for whom it is brought. Sometimes the question arises, why Allah Almighty has gone in such a detail? He would have just simply said khamr is haram or khamr is a greater sin. Why he has gone completely with such details that whosoever sells that's haram, whosoever buys that's haram, whosoever carries it that's haram, whosoever drinks it. This is the beautiful statement which describes the concept of industry. Allah Almighty is not here just declaring khamr haram, but Allah Almighty is declaring the whole industry haram. Whosoever get himself or herself engaged with that whole industry, so that whole industry is haram. So when it's an industry, it's not just the producer. In that industry, someone is selling something, someone is keeping something, someone is carrying something, someone is taking away, buying, selling, and lot of activity and economic activity is being generated through that activity. So Allah Almighty is completely declaring the whole industry haram. So this is the concept of Islamic corporate social responsibility. And how is that? Islam, in West, it is a different phenomena. When they say this is corporate social responsibility. For example, if some organization, they are producing cigarettes, and they produce good cigarettes, enough cigarettes, a lot of cigarettes, they sell them throughout the country, throughout the world. And then by the end of the year, out of that cigarette income, or tobacco income, they spend good 5, 6, 10, $20 million on cancer hospitals. And they think that they have done good enough with the social responsibility and they are the responsible people. So Islam does not support such corporate social responsibility. Islam does not support that you at first place produce harmful things and then later on out of that profit you spend good amount on hospitals to take care of those patients who got injured, who got diseased out of your product. Similarly with the arm industry, you keep producing and creating arms, missiles, bombs of billions and billions of dollars. You bomb places and then later on you create different charitable organizations and you said, okay, we will be re-establishing the places. So this is not a corporate social responsibility in the light and sight of Islam. What Islam suggests, what kind of corporate social responsibility Islam suggests is that you are not allowed to enter into that industry at first place, which is going to harm to the people, which is going to give harm to the society, which is going to make people diseased, which is going to create a lot of trouble for the people. So you have to be careful enough at first place, not getting into such industries and products, creating that product, they could create a problem. So dear audience, similarly, another interesting example which would be giving a more elaborative vision and definition about Islamic corporate social responsibility. The fourth Caliph of Islam, Sayyidina Ali al-Murtaza radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, in a letter to Malik bin al-Haris, who was appointed as a governor of Egypt in his time, he wrote a letter to the governor. He summarized the Islamic concept of corporate social responsibility at that time. What a beautiful thing. He says in that letter, you are advised to treat well businessmen and artisans and direct your people to do so. They are the real source of profit to the state and provide consumer goods. It is this class of peace-loving people for whom no disturbance needs to be feared. But bear in mind that a good many of them are intensely greedy and immune to bad dealing. They hoard grains and try to sell it at high price, and this is most harmful to the public. It is bold on the name of ruler not to fight this evil, prevent them from hoarding. Because the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has clearly prohibited it. And see to it that trade is carried on with utmost ease, that the scales are equally measured and held, and that prices are so fixed that either the seller nor the buyer is put into loss and trouble. So this is a beautiful concept which has been described by Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu while describing the corporate social responsibility. He says that take care of your businessmen, respect them, give them respect, make other people respect them, but then at the same time be vigilant, giving them their right, giving them comfort, give them ease, make them ease, but then don't leave them without any monitoring. Don't leave them open that they start doing hoardings, they start doing such activities which create trouble for the society. So in the same thing, he is basically addressing and suggesting to take care of the right of both sides. He said, giving respect to the business community is their right. Giving rights to the business community is their right. But at the same time, make sure that they don't play with the prices that much, that the people, the second end, the consumer side of the society, they get into trouble. So this is Islamic corporate social responsibility. That's why Islam rejects the concept of monopoly, which exists in other organizations. If organizations, they are monopolistic, they create monopolies, they create and they destroy small businesses from the society very fast, and then they later on keep on spending millions of dollars on the welfare of other societies. So what about the welfare of those people, hundreds of shops down the street and down the line, which were destroyed and their family and businesses were destroyed? So this is not corporate social responsibility. At the other hand, what Islam suggests the corporate social responsibility is creating an equal and balance in the society, where you are not allowed to get into such activities which would destroy the balance of the society, which would take the right from others. The way we call it the freedom of expressions. To Islam, freedom of expression is freedom of expression till the point where the other's rights and freedom of expression is not getting into trouble. They are not damaged. So these limitations are discussed and described by Islam. And then at another place, Quran states in Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah Almighty says, if the debtor is in a difficulty, grant him time till it is easy for him to repay. But if you remit it by way of charity, that is the best for you if you only knew it. And then at another place, Hadith Sayyidina Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam stated that there would be a person, he would stand in front of Allah Almighty at the day of judgment. Allah would ask, what good or what good deed you have done? He would say, I have not done a single good deed, but there was one action I used to do. And what was that? When those debtors used to come to me, the poor ones, who were not able to pay their debts in time, I used to ease them. I used to give them more time. I used to give them more time until and unless they are easy and comfortable to pay back the loan. Allah Almighty would say, I forgive all his sins, and O angels, send him towards heaven. So the concept here very clearly described. At another place, then it says, the one who looks after and works for a widow or a poor person is like a warrior who fight for Allah Almighty's cause, or like a person who fast during the daytime and pray whole night for the whole of his life. So helping people. So when we say corporate social responsibility or a concept of business in Western terms, it is too materialistic, I would say. Even spending in terms of corporate social responsibility, it's more towards the marketing side. They do it to gain power. The way, for example, interesting example we have in front of us, that's a Samsung company. What they do? Right now, Samsung is considered sometime more powerful than the government in Korea. Through spending in the name of corporate social responsibility, they have done a lot of marketing. They have created their repute. And that's what they wanted, that kind of a power they have gained so far. And then there are so many other companies. They do And again, the sincerity doesn't prevail and lies in their concept of corporate social responsibility. And that is optional to them. But when a Muslim businessman is there, this is obligatory on him or her to have a corporate social responsibility and provide a good benefit towards the society. And it is equally weighted in the sight of Allah Almighty, His own profits and taking care of the society. And that's why it is promoted that it is good. You always want to have your debt back in time. But then Allah Almighty says no. Then your actual corporate social responsibility is that it's not that you push someone towards suicide while asking the debt back. And then after having the debt back, you spend 25% of that back on any poor family. That won't help. What about that initial first family who died out of that trouble, who died out of that stress in his life? He was in trouble. So this is a very clear, thin margin which we need to understand between corporate social responsibility and fake corporate social responsibility. So Islam always suggests about the balance in the life. Dear audience, coming to the end of my talk, when we say corporate social responsibility and then Islamic corporate social responsibility, and as we are having a conference related to halal industry and halal businesses, it is necessary and it is a corporate social responsibility from Islam and our religious scriptures to us. And what is that? We have to be fair enough, honest with our industries. We are not allowed to sell our products while using the name Islam. This is the very last message of my talk for this conference. What we do usually, for example, take an example of Islamic banking. What we do, we use the word Islam. We say this is halal business. This is halal industry. So because you are a Muslim, you are supposed to take the loan from this Islamic bank. You are supposed to buy Islamic product because you are a Muslim. You are a Muslim trader. You are a Muslim businessman. It's not, and then at the same, and then because you are Muslim, you will be buying that product from us. And they don't see exactly if their product is really competitive enough to be offered in the market in front of those conventional products. Here we have a beautiful sunnah of Sayyidina Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in front of us, which would guide us exactly what Allah Almighty and His Prophet thinks when He says that what is halal and what is haram and how to operate in business market and in halal industry, and understanding the corporate social responsibility. When Sayyidina Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam migrated to Madinatul Munawwara with his companions, there was a big number of Jewish community. They used to live in Medina as well. So there was only one market in the whole of city, in the whole of state at that time, which was completely run and controlled by the Jewish community of Medina. And it was a monopolistic market, very high prices, and very troublesome policies of that market, which wasn't very much favorable to the community, the poor community and have-nots of the state. So companions, it's a beautiful story. Companions of Prophet of Islam, they came to Sayyidina Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and said, "O Prophet, now you have become head of the state. You are head of Medina. So by force, by your order, stop the Jewish community, stop them from running that market anymore and hand over that market to your own companions." This was the demand of the companions. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, "No. This is not what Islam meant. And this is not what I am there for." He said, "I will give you another place in Medina. You go there, you open your businesses and market, and you run that business according to the values and principles given by Islam. And then let people decide you are doing the right business or the Jewish community of Medina, they are doing the right business. Let them decide. I won't be interfering as head of the state, deciding what exactly wrong or right. So let people decide." So this is the point. When we introduce our products in the name of halal, when we introduce banking products in the name of halal, when we introduce whatever other products in the name of Islam or halal, it is necessary to make sure, and it is a desire and demand of corporate social responsibility, that we make our product competitive enough and more beautiful than other products existing in the market. So we don't sell the product in the name of Islam, but let other people enjoy our products, and then they ask, who gave this product? Who gave this model? And then someone tells this is Islamic. Islam gave this model of product. Islam gave the model of business to us. And that's how you become the messenger of Islam, and not using the name Islam to sell your business and make more money. So this is a demand and desire of a corporate social responsibility today. And the last but not least, the point, for example, the butchery industry here in Australia, there is a lot going on into it. So such beautiful conferences and expos, we all have to sit together and think and make better policies, strong policies to make this whole industry and certification system more foolproof and more confident, so that the people living here in Australia, they could feel more confidence while buying the halal products from the shops when they see the certificates. So if we have one united forum, a strong forum, who is issuing the certificates to the society, that would obviously help and increase the confidence of Muslims living here in Australia in that halal industry and the society. So that was it. And Islamic corporate responsibility is something which has not developed in last 20 years, but this is something which was given to us 1400 years ago in our holy scriptures, Quran and Sunnah of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Thank you very much. Questions?
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
If don't mind.
That's it. No
If
questions. No more questions. That's it.
We have some questions.
Okay, no worries. So I have to
Thank
go
you
sit.
very much, Dr. Muhyiddin Hussain Qadri. It is our pleasure to have such an elaborative speaker, such an expert in his field, who gives us a beautiful insight into the Islamic corporate social responsibility. And now I would like to invite the audience for any questions. If there are any questions, please put your hand up. We have a question right here at the front.
Just a very quick one, Dr. Qadri. With regards to the characterisation of a corporate entity, and when I say that you would have, say, Islamic corporate and a non-Islamic corporate, what criteria would you look at in terms of characterising, say, a corporate entity in the context of Australia? I understand Islamic banking is as a name. So
Yeah, that's one corporate sector. Yeah, this is a good question. So there is nothing specific. It's not that you have to kosher some business or a shop to call it halal or kosher. So it's just a matter of the way you behave, you're dealing, what you deal in, what sort of products you deal in. There are bunch of products, a list of products, which are clearly given and banned and prohibited by Islam. So Islam says these are the products, you stay out of these products, you don't deal in these products. So that's one criteria. And then the second one, as I have mentioned, there are so many businesses. You would be considered as a corporate business and properly Islamic when you will be behaving in a way and adopting the concept of corporate social responsibility in a good manner and a clear manner. So that is clearly in sight of Allah Almighty that you can say, or a community can say, this is an Islamic corporation. So there is no other model or a management model or any other model which would declare any corporate sector that this is Islamic or this is not Islamic. It's just a matter of how you are dealing with the society. What sort of benefits you are providing? Are you making things overpriced? You're becoming a monopoly? Or you are going with the regular terms, not destroying the other businesses and many other values which are been given and ethics given by Islam. So you follow them, you do your business, so you are Islamic corporate. For example, just one more thing. For example, it's sometimes people, you must have heard a lot of people chanting and rising the slogans of Islamic Khilafah or Islamic political system. You hear a lot around the world. So here, that's an interesting and relevant question. I want to describe it here as well. That when you say Islamic Khilafah, there is no concept of Islamic political system or Khilafah. What exactly the Khilafah is? Usually sometime people, they don't really understand what exactly the Khilafah is. They just simply stand up, they raise different slogans about it. Khilafah is something. Islam has not, as I have mentioned earlier, Islam has not given any specific political model. After Sayyidina Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the Prophet of Islam, the first person who was elected as head of the Islamic State was Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu. So his political model was appointment. And then his political model was selection. And then the second caliph was Sayyidina Umar bin Khattab. His political model was appointment. He was appointed by the first caliph, nominated by the first caliph. Then the third model is the presidential model through presidential model, the third caliph of Islam was selected. And then the fourth caliph, Sayyidina Ali al-Murtaza, he was selected by a parliamentary system. So Islam has given, in the first 30 years after the Prophet, given 4 different models. So it's not about model, it's about principles. So when someone come up and say that this is Khilafah or this is the model we have to adopt, there is no specific model, we have to be clear about it. Islam only demands one thing, the way I have said about the business industry. Islam demands about social welfare. If any business give us social welfare enough, it's an Islamic corporate. Or any government or any political system who governs their people according to the laws of Islam, according to the social welfare state system, giving enough to the people, taking care of the people, giving free education to them, giving all sort of comfortabilities to the people, according to the Islam. So that is Khilafah. Any political system and government is Khilafah. Similarly, any corporate sector who take care of the social welfare of the people, according to Islam, that is Islamic corporate. Yeah.
Social responsibility would be the payment of zakat. Would you agree?
Yeah.
My question is, the billions of dollars that are paid in zakat during Ramadan every year,
Yeah.
and given that there are so many millions of Muslims who are living in poverty, organizations who are trusted with the distribution of that zakat, do you think they are doing a good job of that distribution of the zakat?
This is a good thing. Or I would say, if we consider the Islamic corporate responsibility, as I have said, it's obligatory, then zakat is the biggest example. If it is not obligatory or mandatory, we take it as optional, then zakat is not an example, because zakat is mandatory on every Muslim to pay, whoever can afford. The second part of your question, that the organizations who have been trusted and given a lot of money, zakat to spend on, are they doing the right job or wrong job? I would say the government sector, for example, Pakistan and many other governments, there usually when you give a zakat to the state, so there are chances, because there is a lot of corruption going on in the country and their system, there are chances that there is a big time leak in that system, and then the people is not given, the amount is not given to the right people and delivered to the right people. When I talk about other big organizations, so I cannot speak on case to case. Majority, that is my belief, that over 90% people, because it is something people, they are God fearing, and this is something they have a fear in their hearts that Allah Almighty would be asking me about this amount and this amana at the day of judgment. So I believe 90% they are doing all right. Maybe little differences or management issues, organization to organization, that can vary. There is one question at the back here.
Can we get? Yeah.
My question is directed to you.
Yeah.
You said in Islam, as you say, that making things which are harmful for the mankind, they are sort of not approved or not wanted. But what happened with the situation now is the nuclear world.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you have to use a nuclear weapon, you have to make nuclear weapon just for defense, not for defense. How that goes, in that sort of teaching?
Yeah, the good thing about nuclear weapon is you don't sell it. So even in this today's world, you're not allowed to sell nuclear weapons. That's why you make it, you keep it with you. When you start selling it, then you are in trouble. Thank you very much.